Okay, so welcome to this instructional video about how to use the interactive crop planning tool, okay, from SoWeGrow. The point of this tool is to help you understand exactly how much of a vegetable to plant, when to start indoors, when to plant outdoors, and when to harvest, okay? And we've also built in a way for you to get a continuous harvest throughout the season, what is known as succession planting. And I'm going to show you exactly how to use it, okay? And that's the purpose of this video, to show you exactly how to use it, how simple it is. So let's get started, okay? The first thing that you need to look at is this tab over here, okay? So it's how to use, read this first, as you can see in the bottom left hand corner, okay? And once you go there, you'll see all the instructions written out for you, okay? The second thing you need to do is go to the right, the relevant tab, okay? So these are the tabs at the bottom, and they're basically organized by region and planting season, right? So if we're talking about planting in August, or starting seeds in August, or planting in September, even in October, then we're looking at the Gulf warm season planting tab, okay? That's this over here, which I've selected. Okay, now if we wanted to look at the winter season, then we just click over here, we scroll down, and we can go to, say, Gulf cool season planting. Okay, so Gulf is all the countries in the Gulf, and where you have very hot, hot summers, where they, regularly go into the 40s, right? Whereas the Levant is more Mediterranean, so Palestine, Jordan, Tunisia, other parts of North Africa that are more Mediterranean rather than, say, hot, arid desert. So let's get into exactly what it is, okay, you need to do with the crop planning tool. What do you input? Okay, so what are your inputs? So let's look over here. In order to make it really easy, what we've done is we've identified exactly for you, okay, the number of individuals to feed and the date that you want to start planting. All you need to do is put in these two numbers over here, okay? So if you're a family of 4 and you want to feed all those 4 mouths, then you put in 4, okay? If you're a family of 4 but your neighbors are also an additional family of 4, and you'd like to share your produce with them as well, then you can just type in 8 over here, okay? And everything, and based on that, it will tell you exactly, how much of a particular plant to plant, okay? And over here we have the date that you are ready to start planting. So it's the date you're ready to start your seeds indoors, okay? Or if you're not starting seeds indoors, it's the date that you're ready to plant directly outdoors, okay? So let's so those are the two basic inputs that you need to have, okay? Okay, so now let's look at succession planting. Okay, what is succession planting? Succession planting, as you see here, I have basil listed twice. Now, why do I have basil listed twice? It's because I want to have a continuous harvest of basil, at least over 56 days. Okay, so we're assuming here that your basil plant is good for harvest for up to 28 days. In most cases, basil can last several months, okay, depending on how much you take care of it and the rest of it. But in terms of optimal production, like getting the best vegetables out there, which is what we focus on and that's what we are good at, we would say you have basil in the ground for 28 days. After 28 days, you can pull the whole basil out by its root, okay? You can harvest it completely, and then at that time, there will be a second succession of basil ready, and that's the point of having the second basil over here, okay? So now what I want to do is I am going to go over the different columns so we know exactly what each column means. Okay, obviously here, vegetable name. So we have around 10 different vegetables over here. I'm going to show you later, if you wanted to grow a particular vegetable, how are you going to add that in. Okay. Next, we have direct seed / transplant. So basically, a direct seed is basically starting your seeds indoors, right? In your seed starting mix. For how to do that, we have the blueprint. All the instructions are there, so you can check that out, the Gardening Secrets blueprint. And transplant just means taking your saplings and planting them outdoors. Now, so seed or transplant basically means for the basil, you can start your seeds indoors, and 30 days later, you can plant them outdoors in your main growing area. For corn, you'll notice that I just have seed. And why is that? It's because corn typically is not started as indoors before being planted outdoors. You can do that. Certainly you can do that. However, we've not done that. It's not a common use of, not a common way or method of growing corn. Usually we just start from seed. And so we just plant it directly in the ground where you're growing your vegetables. So whether it's in the ground or in a raised bed or in a container with the right potting mix, okay, which is 1/3 peat moss, 1/3 vermiculite, and 1/3 compost, right? And in place of peat moss, you can use coco coir, and in place of vermiculite, you can use perlite. Now, the harvest date, okay, harvest date is basically when you will be pulling out your crop. So for corn, for example, or let's go to basil, okay, so we can look at all the different columns. So for basil, it'd be the 31st of October, okay. This is the outdoor direct seeding planting date, and here it's the 1st of October, okay. And this is the indoor planting date. It's the 1st of September. So you can see we're working backwards here, okay. Now, again, you do not have to enter any of these. All you need to do is answer this, like put in this, you need to put in the date over here, plug in this date, and it will give you all this automatically, okay. So for example, over here I said date I want to start planting is the 1st of September. Then that's the date that it's given me here when I start planting indoors, 1st of September. When do I plant it outdoors? 30 days later, right? So which is the 1st of October. And if you look over here, you can see the formula. Okay, you can see the formula. Now, if you're used to using Excel, you'll understand this. And you can play with it a little, but otherwise, there's no reason to play with it. Once you've sowed it outdoors, in about 30 days, it's ready for harvest. Okay, so that's the number you see over here, harvest date. Now, time between consecutive plantings. Now, this is what I talked about earlier, and that's succession planting. So if I plant basil on the 1st of September, in order to get a continuous harvest, okay, I will plant basil again on the 29th of September, okay? So that way I have a harvest of basil for 28 days plus 28 days, which is 56 days, okay, which is pretty decent. Now, the final number of plants after thinning, okay, now this is, again, based on the number of individuals you want to feed, okay, so there's a formula there, and that's been worked in over here. And what does thinning mean? Thinning basically is, say you're starting your seeds, okay, you always start more than what you need, okay. You usually start you plant 2 seeds or 3 seeds for every 1 seed that you want to keep. Why is that? It's because germination is never 100%. So in case your seeds do not germinate, you have a backup, okay. You have something you can rely on. There's still seeds, there's still saplings that will sprout, and you can work with that. So so you will need to thin your vegetables, okay, thin your saplings to get, for example, one one sapling per potting cell. So basically, what you will be planting in your outdoor area. Okay, you will be starting, say, 16 or 24 seeds. Okay, on the 1st of September, and you'll be planting outdoors just 8. Okay, 8 seeds. What is this final spacing between plants in one row? So say you're planting in a row, okay, on a raised bed or in the ground, then you want to make sure that the spacing between one basil plant, okay, and the one above it or the one below it is 30 centimeters. You want a foot distance. And what if you're planting in parallel rows? In that case, the distance is also 30 centimeters. So each vegetable has its own specific spacing requirements, and they're all made to allow the plant to grow, to spread its roots, and also not to be far apart so that a lot of weeds also proliferate in that empty space. So these are the ideal spacings that you want to maintain. Now, what is square foot gardening? Square foot gardening is obviously the number of plants you want to plant in a square foot. Okay, so 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. That's another method. Again, you want to read more details about it, you can Google it, and all the information is also in the Gardening Secrets blueprint. So in the square foot gardening, the final number of plants per square foot for basil, for example, would be 1. Now, you will notice over here, I've been pretty, let's say, generous in terms of the space I'm giving the plants, because I know the plants enjoy the extra space. So, it's possible to have 2 basil plants there, but they won't give you as strong a plant, or as vigorous a plant, or as plentiful a plant as just 1, which is the ideal spacing. Okay, so this is to let you know. Now, if there are any notes or observations, they'll be put in this final column, column K. Okay, so for example, we can look at this note over here for the cucumber. We can see that I've written, avoid planting in the hottest summer months. Okay, so which is it's best to plant outdoors in February, in March, September, and October. Okay, so after March, I wouldn't recommend planting cucumber outdoors in the summer. Okay, so I've explained all the different columns. Now let's see what happens when we play with these numbers. Remember, these are your only 2 inputs: the number of individuals you want to feed and date you want to start planting. Okay, so let's look at, how basil, changes. So say I want to feed 8 individuals. Okay, what will that tell me? Or I want to feed, I'm feeling generous, so I want to feed 12 individuals. So how many plants do I need to be planting? Let's see. So right now with 4, I need to plant 8. With 12, I'll need to plant 24. See, and that's changed for both successions of basil plant. Okay, now, so let's go back to 4 people that I'm feeding. Now, say on the 1st of September I'm traveling. Okay, and I'm gonna only be there, ready to start on the 14th of September. So I'm going to change that. And the format here is DDMM YYYY. Okay, so it's day, month, and year. Okay, so I've plugged that in, and you can see that the dates here have changed. So I'm going to be starting indoors on the 14th of September, 14th of October is when I plant it outdoors, and I will be ready to harvest around mid-November. Now, these again are approximate dates. Okay, maybe your harvest will be a week early, maybe your harvest will be a week late. It all depends on the variety you're using. Okay, now if you want to change these numbers, these harvest dates, based on what is known as the days to maturity, okay, the time it takes for a plant to be ready for harvest from the time you sow it or you transplant it, you can do that, and I'm going to show you at the end of this video also how to do that. Now, you'll notice that a number of dates here have changed. Everything starts on the 14th of September based on what I entered over here. Okay, now let's look at the errors. Why are some cells red? Okay, so let's look at that together. Okay, so let's look at the errors. Now, the errors, okay, are either a cell colored in red, okay, a light red, as you see over here, or it's a cell that has a little triangle in the corner. And if you would scroll over it, it will tell you that you shouldn't be planting this vegetable on this date. Okay. Now the errors will only show up in column D, which is the outdoor direct seeding or planting date. Okay. So if that says error, basically you shouldn't be planting basil. So you wouldn't be starting the seeds on the 12th of October. Now, why is it showing an error? It's showing an error because for summer plants, we are only planting in September and October. Okay, anything past October, we're not planting. So because then we get into cooler weather, and basil isn't super suited for cooler weather, prefers hotter weather, so it will grow best then. Does that mean that basil absolutely won't grow in cooler weather? No, it could grow in cooler weather. I have basil also growing all year round. But again, we want to get you the best produce and get you growing the things in their best environment, and that way you get the best output, or the tastiest basil and the healthiest basil and the rest of it. Okay, so even here you can see cucumber. It's the 25th of November. Again, not a good time. It's too late. It's too late. Another thing I want to say over here is in the Gulf, okay, only plant on the dates in February to May for summer crops, and in September to October. Okay, so don't be starting anything, planting in the main ground in June, July, or August. You may start your tomato seeds in August. You may start your pepper seeds in August. You may start other stuff in August, because they take, or even in July, right? Because they take up to 60 days indoors before they plant it outdoors. So that's fine. But don't plant anything outdoors in your grain growing area in August or July or even June, just to be on the safe side. Okay, except if it's molokhia or purslane or sweet potato, and that's written over here. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you are the advanced uses of the crop planning tool. Okay, say you're an Excel expert or an Excel geek, sort of like me, and you like to play with these numbers a little, and you want to go change up some stuff. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, now let's flip it up a bit. Let's move to the Gulf cool season planting. Okay, and let's look at lettuce. Okay, because lettuce is something everybody likes, and ideally they want to have it throughout the season. Now, I have here 2 successions, okay? And the reason I've created 2 successions is that I've set up the base for you to be able to create further successions easily, okay? So this is what you need to do. So follow it step by step, how to create succession planting. So we're using the example of lettuce. So what I'll need to do is under these, under the final succession of lettuce, okay? And what does that mean? Basically, that I have a continuous harvest of lettuce. So I'm not just harvesting, lettuce on the 19th of December, and then again on the 2nd of January, but 14 days after that as well, because you can see over here it's the succession planting time is 14 days, which means basically I'm starting lettuce or I'm sowing lettuce every 14 days. Okay, and you can see that over here. So what I'll need to do is I'll need to select that column, okay, and I'm gonna right click it, okay, and I'm gonna say insert, okay, and that's another, so I'm creating the space to make another succession. Then I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna say insert, and I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna say insert. That way I'm getting it for you'll see how long we'll basically be harvesting, but essentially it will be for a very long time. It will be 5 successions of lettuce, 5 times 2 weeks, which is 10-week harvest of lettuce. Okay, so 2.5 months of lettuce. Amazing. So this is what I do. I select the second succession column, row, okay, which is row 25. I select it all, okay, which is shift, and then you move it across. Then you press Control C, you're copying it, and then you press shift and down, and you select these three rows and just press Control V, okay, and that will just plant it for you. See what I've done there? And now I have basically lettuce for all the way up until the 13th of February, okay. So, and you can continue doing that for the others as well, okay. So that's for succession planting. The second thing I want to show you is, what if you hate cabbage, okay? You're not a fan of cabbage, but cabbage isn't the thing. It's confusing you. You can simply select these two rows, okay, using your mouse, and you can do one of two things. You can delete it, okay, so you right click, okay, and you say delete, okay, and then it's gone. No more cabbage in your winter plant, okay. I'm going to press Control Z to go back, or you can just cross it out, okay, and cross it out, and then you can uncross it in case you decide later you want it, but you don't want it distracting you, so you cross it out. How do you cross it out? So I've selected it. I right click it, and I say Format Cells. Okay, and then under font, I say strike through. Okay, strike through. That's that, and I say okay, and that's it. It's crossed off. You know, basically, I can ignore that cabbage. So that's a good way to sort of take out the things that you don't need to do. Now, say you've crossed it out. How do you get it back again? Maybe you want to do it next season. Just go into the members area and download a new version of the crop planning tool. It's as simple as that. Okay. So I'm going to undo that. What's next? Okay. Next, we want to look at the days to maturity. Now, there are certain, for example, broccoli, okay, that have very quick days to maturity, like 35 days. Okay. Now, what kind of broccoli is that? That's broccolini. All those little tiny stem broccoli. So that's pretty cool. So if we wanted to change that, how would we do it? So over here, as you can see, we have a days to maturity. If we look up here, okay, in the formula, we have a days to maturity of 75 days. That's for a typical broccoli head, okay, head broccoli. Now, what if you have a broccolini and it's 35 days? It's very, very simple. All you need to do is go here, okay. Once you've selected the cell, you'll see the formula here. Click in the formula bar and modify. It says plus 35 because it's broccolini. Okay, so I'm just going to change that up actually. So, and you can play with the number here, the thing here. So you have broccoli, and you can always put in the variety, right? So say broccolini sweet stem. Okay, that's a kind of sweet stem broccolini, and that's over there. And you can see, so your harvest is now much earlier, right? It's much earlier. It's the 19th of December as opposed to something that was meant to be harvested in February, right? So that's broccolini sweet stem. So that's how you can change the date to maturity, and that way you can be more accurate in terms of when you need to be ready to harvest. How do you find the days to maturity? It's usually written on the back of the seed packet. So if you want to be changing that, you can do that. Just go to column C, which is the harvest date, and you change up the formula in the formula bar. Okay, final sort of modification that you can do here. What if you wanted to plant something that's not in the list? Okay, because we have 20 different vegetables, summer and winter. So what if you want to grow something else that's not in the list? How would you do that? Okay, so let's say you wanted to grow fennel. Okay, so fennel, FG. So it fall above garlic. So we're just gonna go over here. Okay, we're gonna select this row. We're gonna right click it, and we're gonna say, forget copied cells. So just right click it. Okay, if you've copied cells before, just press escape and that removes it from the clipboard and being ready to paste. So right click it, say insert. Okay, and say you want to do 2 successions, then you just press, you can right click it, press insert, or just press F4. That's the shortcut, and it does the exact same thing. It creates another row, and we'll type in fennel. Okay, well, fennel is great because, you know, it's you can have it raw, you can cook it. It adds a nice fennelly and anise flavor. You can use the little leaves at the top, and they make a great addition to soups and fish if you eat fish. So, okay, let's look at fennel. Now, fennel is also done by Transplant. So you just get all the information that you need for the fennel, and you plug it in. Okay, so it's as simple as that. We're gonna build it from scratch. We're gonna follow the formulas that are over here. So basically, what we want to do is we want to select this date over here. Okay, that's when you want to start. So since it's not from Transplant, we first modify this cell. Okay, so we're gonna say is equal to $B, okay, $5, okay, which is this one here. So just say instead of B5, $B, $5. So if you make if you're copying the formula across, it's going to be easy to do that. Okay, so that's the date we have there. Now, 30 days later, we'll plant it outdoors. So we're going to press equal to, you select this cell, column 5, add column 5, plus 30, right? So that's when you'll be planting it outdoors. Now, the fennel will be ready in about 70 days. So we're going to do is equal to this column plus 70. And then we know we can harvest fennel on the 23rd of January if we start on the 15th of October, as we said we would. Okay, over here. Now, what about the other numbers? So the other numbers, obviously, you'll need to pull. This is assuming that you can get this, you have these other crops and you want to pull this information. You'll need to check reliable sources. You have questions about stuff and you want to know, you know, rough approximate dates, etc., and spacing, and the rest of it you can write us. Okay, so the next column is the, let's scroll up, it's the time between consecutive plantings, or the succession dates. Okay, so that's 21, that's 3 weeks. The next thing that we want to do is figure out how many to plant. Now, if we look at the formula over here, say we want 2 fennel plants per person for all the weeks that we're there. Okay, so we just copy that formula and we paste it here. So it's $B, $4, which is the number of people that we want to feed. We want to give them 2. Okay, and then we want to have it for 3 weeks. Okay, so we'll type in 3 over here. Don't worry too much about this. You can just type in like this. This is about, you know, consecutive harvests and the rest, but I'm just going to demonstrate here. So that's basically 24 plants you want. Okay, so that over the 3 weeks you're continuously harvesting 2 plants per person for 4 people in total. What about this? What about the spacing between the plants in the row? So we can go with a tighter spacing than usual. Sometimes people prefer to go for 30. I'd say we can go for 20 and get sort of mini fennel. Okay. The spacing between the rows is also, you know, can be more ample. So it can sort of be along the lines of a broccoli. Okay, so it's around 45. You can put it at 45. And I would do 2 plants per square foot, okay, based on that. Okay, so that's what I have for fennel. Now, if I wanted to do a succession of fennel, all I need to do is just select all this, okay, Control C, and then Control V, okay. Now, the only thing I'm changing here is the start date, right? So the start date will actually be not 15/10/21, but it will be the previous start date plus the number of days to consecutively plant, or the succession planting time, right? Time interval, and enter. And that tells me, and that gives me the next date. And so my next harvest of fennel is the 13th of February. And that's how you can create absolutely new plantings using the same formula. You can print it. You can even like use it to create, and then you can write in your notebook if that's what you prefer. But it makes it really, really easy to figure out exactly what to plant, when to plant it, how much to plant, when your stuff will be ready for harvest, if you're planting in rows, how many you need to plant, what spacing you need, if you're doing square foot gardening, what you need. So it's amazing. Remember, planting in the Gulf cool season is from November to early February, okay? Whereas in the Levant, it's pretty much from, September, okay, September to March. Planting in the Gulf warm season is it's 2 periods, okay? It's essentially 2 periods. It's not 1 period, it's 2 periods, because we're avoiding the really hot summer months. So it's from February to May, and then September to October, okay? And that's when the stuff will be going in the ground, okay? Now, is there overlap? Can basil, which is a summer plant, possibly be, continue to be harvested into November? Absolutely. It'll be harvested in November, as you can clearly see over here, and that's fine. But can it be planted in November? It's possible. It's possible. It can survive. But will it be its best plant? Likely not. No. So these are the guidelines to follow for the best produce, to give you the best output, the tastiest vegetables. So enjoy it, have fun with it, customize it, work with it. And happy planning and happy planting. Okay, we'll see you later. Have any questions? Write us at info@SoWeGrow.com. Bye.